Well, shifting our focus to the UK now, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in the eye of a political storm. The fallout after Epstein-Mandelson link has sent shockwaves in British politics. Keir Starmer has stood his ground amid calls to resign, but there are questions on whether he can sustain through his remaining term. Earlier in the day, Keir Starmer held a meeting with his cabinet at 10 Downing Street. The ministers have rallied around their Prime Minister. According to the reports published in British media, Starmer asked ministers not to release their messages with former US Ambassador Peter Mandelson. This comes after his Secretary of State for Health was released his chats with Mandelson. Now, Keir Starmer, remember, is facing flack for appointing Peter Mandelson as ambassador to US. Critics accuse Starmer of knowing that Mandelson had maintained links with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The British Prime Minister has lost 2 top aides in the last 2 days. Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, has resigned on Sunday last for advising Starmer to appoint Mandelson. Following him, Starmer's communications chief, Tim Allen, quit on Monday this week. This may not be the end of departures. According to reports, the Cabinet Secretary, Chris Wormald, may also be forced out of his job. Wormald took up the role only a few days before Mandelson's appointment was formally announced. The government has announced to release all the documents regarding the vetting process leading up to Mandelson's appointment as the UK envoy to America. The Epstein fallout comes at a time when Keir Starmer's popularity is already low. According to a YouGov poll, his own popularity stands at 18% at the moment, with Labour Party falling behind their Conservative rivals and Reform UK led by Nigel Farage. Mandelson's saga certainly does not help Starmer's poor popularity, but it could drag it further down, with more elections coming up in less than 3 months. Some parts of UK have local elections as well. Remember, Wales and Scotland have parliamentary polls, and mayoral elections are also due across England. Scotland's Labour leader, Anas Sawar, has called for Starmer to step down. He called Mandelson-Epstein scandal a failure of Downing Street. The opposition parties have seized the moment to launch attacks on the Labour Party. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called the entire saga a, quote, Labour psychodrama.
The Prime Minister is the architect of his own misfortunes, and all of the chaos and instability we're seeing is completely self-inflicted. This is a Labour psychodrama right now. We're all living in Labour's psychodrama.
Addressing a party rally in Birmingham, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said that Starmer's days are numbered in Downing Street as the party prepares for a possible election scenario.
And I'll tell you something. Spare a thought for Downing Street this afternoon, where the curtains are drawn and the political life of the most unpopular and most useless Prime Minister in living memory is drawing to a close.
And for more on this, let me go across to our correspondent, Ollie Barrett, who's joining us from London. Ollie, despite repeated assurances by Prime Minister Keir Starmer, clearly the opposition is unrelenting. Despite the kind of resignations that we've seen in the last 2 days, clearly the situation isn't helping the British Prime Minister.
The situation is very difficult for the British Prime Minister. That is absolutely the case. He is probably feeling a bit safer today in his job than he did on Monday. He has the backing now of every single member of his cabinet. He has the backing of Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, often considered by many as a potential leadership challenger. He has the backing today of Andy Burnham, not currently an MP, but also considered a potential Labour leadership challenger in the future. Now, that's not to say that Keir Starmer is out of the woods yet. There are all sorts of potential moments of difficulty coming down the road for him. The publication of many of those documents related to Peter Mandelson, for example, the upcoming by-election in the north of England towards the end of this month, the local and regional elections in May as well. But certainly Keir Starmer is attempting to show that the government is now able to move forward. We had all sorts of pictures of cabinet ministers around the cabinet table in Downing Street today. yesterday, beaming away and trying to put on a show of unity and strength. We had them all leaving Downing Street at the end of the meeting, smiling from ear to ear and insisting they are in full support of Keir Starmer. But he knows that the polling is absolutely awful for him and for his Labour Party at the moment, and that's part of the reason that Nigel Farage of Reform and Kemi Badenoch of the Conservatives are going so hard for Keir Starmer at the moment. This is certainly a week in which it looks like Keir Starmer will now survive for now, but many Labour MPs will tell you the government really needs a huge reset if it's to stand any chance of surviving beyond the short term. And you mentioned some of those figures who are on the way out of Keir Starmer's government. He has some decisions to make about exactly who are going to be appointed in those posts, so he can try and show his best foot forward in the days, weeks, months ahead. Of course, the next UK election, in terms of a general election, could be 3 years or so away from now. At the moment, it still looks very hard for Keir Starmer to get there as leader of his party and Prime Minister, but he insists that is his aim.
You know, Ollie, while Keir Starmer mulls his next few steps and his next few appointments, I want to understand from you how the Conservatives and Nigel Farage are actually strategizing their way forward, because they have been, you know, upping the ante, putting pressure on Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Of course, Prime Minister Starmer has refused to resign, but what does their strategy look like?
Their strategy is to keep the pressure on as much as possible, to paint a picture of a weak Prime Minister, of a chaotic number 10 Downing Street, of a government that's not getting anything done. And conversely, of course, the strategy from Keir Starmer and his government is to try and show that that is not true. They will try and roll out all sorts of opportunities to show the things that they say they're doing up and down the country to make people's lives better. And that is really the argument and the fight that's going to play out here in the UK political sphere in the days and weeks ahead.
All right, Ollie Barrett, thanks very much for joining us with the latest. Let's wait and see what really happens in the next few weeks and months for Prime Minister Keir Starmer.